this on. Well, welcome everyone to the Planning Commission meeting of July 20, 2023. First on the agenda is calling the roll, and everyone is here except Greg Byrne is no longer on the Planning Commission. I don't know if anybody wants to make comments later or whatever, but next is Pledge of Allegiance, and Dennis, could you
Why not volunteer?
Okay.
And after that great 4th of July ceremony that we had, it's easy to actually ask you to join me in pledging allegiance to our flag and help me begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dennis. Approval of agenda?
I move approval.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed, so that's unanimous, Epi. And any announcements? Wendy, do you have any announcements?
None tonight.
Are you fully recovered?
I am fully recovered, finally. Thank you.
Good. Dennis?
I have one, and I just came from the Chamber and City-sponsored ribbon cutting at the, I guess, the rededicated under a new ownership Anza Hotel. And there is, in fact, an event happening at that hotel coming up on Thursday, July 27th. But I would encourage anybody in town to go and take a look at the Anza. It's a very nice hotel. Oh. Lots of rooms, and it's been a great revenue generator for our city because of the transient occupancy tax. So, you know, they help us, we should be helping them. And the more occupancy they have, the better off everybody is in this town. So that ceremony is going on over there right now with the Chamber and most of the city council members as well. So I'm giving a salute to the Anza Hotel and their new owners. So
Did they remodel it all, or?
they did actually a significant amount of rehabilitation. It was always pretty good, and if you walk through now, it looks fresh, smells fresh, is fresh, and it's quite nice. So don't be afraid to refer people over there and enjoy, and the more they succeed, the more the city succeeds as well.
We had a slab leak a few years ago and had to stay there. We chose to stay there.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, it's a nice hotel.
Very nice.
Yeah, we have a number of nice hotels in town. That's a good thing.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. John, do you have any?
Nothing for that.
Bob, do you have any announcements? And I don't either. So next we get to oral communications. I don't see anybody here for comments on matters that are not on our agenda. So then we go to item number 1, the consent item, approval of the minutes for July 6, 2023. Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Is there a
Second.
Any discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all in favor. Next item is a public hearing item. This is let me get my glasses, sorry. File number SPR, site plan review, 2022-012, request for site plan review to demolish an existing 2,569 square foot residence and to construct a new 4,305 square foot residence and a new garage, new landscaping, hardscape, swimming pool, and retaining walls located at 4022 Bonham Road within the residential single-family RS zoning district. Jacqueline, could you give us a report? Or?
Yes, thank you, Chair Harrison, and
Thank
good
you.
evening, Commissioners. I do want to mention first that this project...
Jacqueline, could I ask you to eat the mic so I can hear?
How about this?
That's
Oh,
perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This project was noticed to all property owners within 500 feet of the subject site. The public hearing notice was also posted on the city's website and throughout the city at all required locations. Staff did receive 2 emails in support of the project from adjacent property owners, and those emails have been distributed to the commissioners tonight. And again, this is a request for a site plan review to demolish the existing 2,569 square foot residence and construct a new 4,305 square foot single family home with associated new garage, landscaping, hardscape, pool, and retaining walls located at 4022 Bonham Road. Here we can see an aerial view of the subject site, which is outlined in green here. The site is located within the greater Mulwood community, which is to the north of Mulholland Highway, and it is within the residential single-family zoning district. The site is surrounded to the north, south, and west by other single-family residences, and to the east by Chaparral Elementary. Here's a little bit more of a close-up view of the subject site. You can see here the existing residence and swimming pool. This is an interior lot of 15,092 square feet. You can see in this photo existing two-story single-family residence of 2,569 square feet. There are also associated exterior improvements, landscape, hardscape pool, attached garage, and rear patio cover. And here we have a photograph of the existing site. You can see the second story is set back a little bit further than the first story. You can also see the landscape and hardscape in the front yard. So the proposal before you tonight includes demolition of the existing 2,569 square foot single-family residence and construction of a new 4,305 square foot residence. The project also includes demolition of existing site features to include landscape, hardscape, filling in the existing pool, and construction of associated new site features, landscape, hardscape, a new pool, balconies, and a covered patio. And Calabasas Municipal Code Section 17.62.020 requires this project to be reviewed by the Planning Commission. So in this image, you can see the existing site plan. Everything within that clouded area is proposed to be demolished. So everything, if you can see my cursor, oh, there it is. If you can see my cursor on your screen, everything within this clouded area here is to be demolished. Again, residence, hardscape, landscape, trees, pool is to be filled in. And I do want to point out on this slide, you can see this existing 67% slope. So there's a relatively steep slope at the rear of the lot down to the rear property line. That slope is all to remain. They're not touching that slope as part of this project. And here we have the proposed site plan. You can see on this slide the property lines are outlined in red, and the minimum required setbacks for a residence are shown in green here. You can see the proposed new single-family residence right here towards the front of the lot. And again, you can see here this existing slope at the rear of the property, which is not changing from that previous slide. On this sheet, you can see a little bit better view of the landscape that's being proposed as part of this project. The text is a little bit small here, but you can see on the sheet there is a new 5-foot-tall fence that's to be installed around the property perimeter since they are demoing all existing walls and fences as part of the project. You can also see the proposed new landscaping that they're going to be putting in, which includes fern pines around the perimeter of the residence on either side to screen it from the adjacent properties. And there's also a variety of a mixture of native and drought-tolerant landscaping that's being proposed in the landscaped area at the front and side yard of the residence. There's also a lawn area in the backyard here, proposed new swimming pool, and then we have a row of low hedges at the rear of the swimming pool. And you'll note that this fence shown here is existing, unchanged from the current location. Here we have the proposed first floor plan. On the first floor of the residence, we have a 3-car garage, as well as a guest bedroom, bathroom associated with the bedroom, a playroom, a bathroom off the hallway, living room, kitchen area, laundry, and then what I'm assuming is a pool bathroom that can be accessed from the outside, as well as a covered patio area. On the proposed second floor plan, I do want to mention on this sheet, you can see here, first floor roof below. So that shows how far the second floor is stepped back from the front wall of the first floor. So that provides a little bit of differentiation between the first and second floors when viewing the proposed new residence from the street. You can see on the sheet that there is proposed to be a master bedroom as well as 3 additional bedrooms upstairs and 2 office areas here with a rear balcony at the back of the residence, and then that patio cover shown on the previous slide below. Here we have the proposed elevations. As shown, you can see, as mentioned previously, the second floor is stepped back from the first floor to provide a little bit of separation and differentiation. They're also proposing to utilize different materials to differentiate those a little bit as well. They're proposing a stone veneer siding at the first floor, which wraps around to the sides of the residence as well, and then an off-white, sort of a nude tone stucco for the second floor, as well as these stucco columns at the front. Here we have the rear elevation and the right side exterior elevation. As mentioned, that stone veneer siding does wrap around the sides of the residence, as do the eaves of the roof on the first floor. So moving on to the design, as mentioned, there's a proposed stone veneer siding, a gray toned shingle, with a nude toned or off-white stucco color, a white vinyl fence that will surround the property, and these new pavers in the front and side yard areas. So the Architecture Review Panel reviewed the proposed project on May 26th, 2023. The subject site is not located within a designated scenic corridor, and there are no city-imposed architectural design standards for the neighborhood. The ARP found the proposed project is compatible with the aesthetics of the surrounding neighborhood, and they did recommend approval of the project to the Planning Commission. And I do want to mention that the ARP's recommendation of approval included a suggestion to extend those eave details around the sides of the residence, for the purpose of breaking up the appearance of relatively blank walls. So the applicant did revise that detail and wrap the roof eave around the sides of the residence. You can see that in these side elevations. I'll go back one more. This side elevation, how the roof wraps around the side of the residence to take the ARP's suggestion into account. So this slide is based on the home comparison table within the staff report, which analyzed homes within a 300-foot radius of the subject site. Based on that information, home sizes in the vicinity range from approximately 1,741 square feet to 4,042 square feet. Lot sizes in the vicinity range from approximately 9,393 square feet to 16,773 square feet. The average home size in the vicinity is 2,511 square feet. The average lot size is 11,562 square feet. With the proposed project, the residence will be 4,305 square feet in total, and the subject site's lot size is 15,092 square feet. Surrounding homes in the neighborhood are a mix of 1- and 2-story single-family residences. Here we have photos of the surrounding homes to the north of the subject site and to the south of the subject site. So the proposed residence will be located directly in between these homes. Okay, so moving on to the applicable findings for a site plan review per section 17.62.020 of the municipal code. The proposed project complies with all applicable provisions of this development code. The proposed project is consistent with the general plan, any applicable specific plan, and any special design theme adopted by the city for the site and the vicinity. The approval of the site plan review is in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. The proposed structures, signs, site development, grading, and/or landscaping are compatible in design, appearance, and scale with existing uses, development, signs, structures, and landscaping for the surrounding area. The site is adequate in size and shape to accommodate the proposed structures, yards, walls, fences, parking, landscaping, and other development features. And finally, that the proposed project is designed to respect and integrate with the existing surrounding natural environment to the maximum extent feasible. So those are the 6 required findings for a site plan review, and the applicant's proposed justification in response to these site plan review findings is attached as Exhibit B to the written staff report. So with that, staff concludes that the proposed project will not alter the existing land use of the subject site, which is an allowed use in the RS zoning district. Compliance with applicable development standards is documented within the written staff report. No variance permit is required for the proposed project. Homes in the neighborhood range in size from 1,741 square feet to 4,042 square feet, and the proposed residence is 4,305 square feet. The Architecture Review Panel recommended approval of the project, and the project is exempt from SEQA review pursuant to Section 15061, which is General Rule Exemption, 15301, Existing Facilities, and Section 15303, New Construction of the California SEQA Guidelines. So with that, staff recommends that the Commission Direct staff to prepare a resolution for approval or a resolution for denial of file number SPR-2022-012, inclusive of all required findings to support the resolution. Staff is prepared to assist the commission in developing the findings for approval or denial as required. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Before we go to the public hearing, does anybody up here have questions for
I have
Wendy?
a couple questions.
Go ahead.
We have received 2 letters from neighbors. Have you received any other communication from other neighbors?
No, only questions, and that was from one of the neighbors that later submitted the letter in support of the project.
Okay, and also, I'm curious, do you happen to have the home size range for the general Mulwood area?
We don't have a calculation for the general Mulwood area. We just have the calculation for the 300-foot radius from the site.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
That's all. Dennis, do you have any questions?
I have a comment, and it has, it's kind of in the form of a question, because a lot of folks don't realize that the lots on this side of Bonhomme, the backyards overlook Chaparral Elementary School.
Oh.
So in a way, even though it's a public facility, and it's considerably lower in elevation, the views from these properties and the views from, what do you call them, the edge view swimming pools and things like that, they will be looking at the Santa Monica Mountains as opposed to looking down at a schoolyard. But there is actually quite a bit of land between the back of the house and where the pool edge is, from what I can see in the drawings.
It goes a down slope.
Yeah, and it's not too steep, although, I probably, these days we look at standards that would want to maintain, soils management on the slope. But, it's, pre-existing use, and it's appropriate from what I can say. But are there any, and this is the question, I guess, from the comment, is there anything that we need to take into account when a home, like the homes on Bonhomme, are overlooking a public serving facility like Chaparral Elementary? And I don't know that answer.
I think the homeowner is able to answer that question. I believe he was able to
Great.
talk to the
Okay.
district.
I mean, it's not an objection, it's just an observation. All 3 of my kids went there.
Well, do you want to, so can we just open the public hearing then and have him come up? Because I've got a question for him, maybe others do as well.
I have a question for Jacqueline
Let's just finish
before.
the questions.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, go ahead then. Sorry.
So the home is going to be 4305. The homes on either side, which are in the pictures, are 2 stories, correct?
Yes, those homes are 2 stories as
And
well.
they appear to me both to have had additions. Is that true?
I'm not positive of the permit history on either of those homes.
Okay, just
They're-
sort of look
they're-
like it from the picture and on the internet. Do you know whether any of these homes that are listed on page 8 of the report, which are Bonhomme homes, are either of those 2? Because I'm trying to get a sense of, this is a 4,300 square foot home. Is it going to right in between what? 2 2,500 square foot homes or 2 3,000 square foot homes?
Let me find those. I believe one is 4014 Bonhomme,
Oh, that's 3272.
and then I think 4030 Bonhomme is the other one.
Okay, so they're both at least over 3. That suggests that they did have some addition at some point. And then the other question I had is, I think I saw somewhere in here that the lot size is 0.35 of an acre. How much of that is non-slope, if you know?
We can go back up. I don't have an exact percentage, but we can go
Roughly.
back up to the survey to get a better look at the site. Non-sloped, 2/3, a little bit less than 2/3.
So it's less than a quarter of an acre then of actual flat. So they're putting 4,300 square foot home on a less than a quarter of an acre with a pool, right?
Eyeballing it, yes,
Eyeballing it.
approximately.
And then the final question, if I may, Mr. Chairman, is how much closer, if any, is the house to the street, the new house?
Then the previous project?
Yes.
I measured this morning, I believe according to the survey here, the previous home also had about a 20-foot setback. So it doesn't look like it was legal non-conforming at all, and it is maintaining about the same. If we go to the site plan here, you can see that in green here, the 20-foot setback line.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Any questions, Bob, for the staff? No. All right, then I'm going to open the public hearing, and perhaps, Mr. Martin, could you come up, because I have there may be questions for you as well. And just state your name and city of residence for the record.
Sure. I'm Steve Martin, or Isabel Martin, and my city of residence is in Sino right now.
Thank you. So does anybody have questions besides me for Mr. Martin? No? Go ahead.
I did have a question, sir, on the landscape plan. So I take it you're planning to move from Encino into this house?
Yeah.
Okay. And I really appreciate how much California natives are included in the landscape, quite a few in the landscape plan. One of the things I noticed was you want to put these, what they call, I think it's the wax myrtles along the two sides. The Pacific Way Pacific myrtles, I believe, those can be very big. Those can get to 50 to 65 feet. I think those are what you're going to do for basically barriers on both sides.
The barriers are going to be podocarpus or fern pine.
Or the fern pine. Those can get big too.
Yeah, some we'll keep them trimmed, obviously. My neighbors prefer a taller hedge for more privacy, so we'll work it out with them how tall they want it, and we'll trim it to height.
So you'll trim it to a hedge rather than let it grow to a
It's
tree?
going to be a hedge, yeah.
Right, okay.
I see, because those can be big trees if you,
Yeah, this
If
will
you
be
wanted them to be.
specifically a hedge, like a row.
okay, because it's this close to the, I don't know what their root structure is, but that's a heck of a lot of trees right near a heck of a lot of infrastructure.
They're not as bad as
We
ficus.
specifically, yeah, we specifically picked the podocarpus because it's not as invasive. The root system is
Good.
not as invasive as
There's a-
something like a fig or
Right, the ficus is
the
worse.
ficus.
No, it's pretty from what I saw on the internet. I'm just curious, I won't belabor this, you've got a western redbud or more, and I can't see where it is on the landscape plan. Do you know
I
offhand?
think that's the one on either side of the stairs, the entryway stairs,
Oh, maybe it's
Oh.
kind of hid, buried
By
in
the-
there.
by the sidewalk.
Oh, good, okay. Those are nice, take forever to grow. But I think you've got them at 5 gallons, don't you? Oh, no, you've got a 15-gallon. Oh, that's good.
They're still slow, though.
Yes, those
Well-
are, I'll show with my cursor, those are right here, and they're the 15-gallon. Like he was saying, there's other plants under them, so it's a little bit hard to see the outline, but they're right there.
Yeah, the only problem is that means they've been sitting in a container for a long time. And then once you put them in the ground, sounds like you know a lot about this, but once you put them in the ground, they really have a shock period. So just sort of expect that. Yeah. That's, I think that's all I had of the applicant.
Thank you, John. Bob?
I have a question. I didn't notice in the plans, but are you planning to put solar on this property?
Yeah, definitely. It does show on the roof plan. It might not be in this set of.
Yeah, it is in the packets on sheet, let's see what sheet the roof plan is, sheet A4 in the packets, you can see the solar. I didn't include the roof plan in the PowerPoint, but you can see on the elevations where the solar panels will be.
Yeah, there will be panels on this elevation, on this roof plane, and on the flat top roof plane.
Anything else, Bob? I think it's required by law for all new construction.
It is
so-
required by law.
Yeah, so they would never get a permit,
Yeah.
and it's good anyway. Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry, I have one question on the color of the windows. From the only drawing I see on G1, it looks like they're gray. Are they gray, or is that just the way they're rendered in the drawing?
It's just a shading, like a depth Q shading. The frames will be black, essentially, dark frames.
Well, I wasn't worried about I can see the frames, but I'm talking about the glass itself.
Well, the glass will be clear.
Okay, because it looks pretty gray,
I see.
and that's not common.
Yeah, it's just the rendering. I guess the interior is dark.
Yeah, it's a rendering, but I just wanted to verify it. I'm sorry.
They're clear, normal windows, yeah.
Okay. That's the only question I have. Do you have questions,
have a-
Mr. Martin?
A comment again. After the Northridge earthquake, when we rebuilt our house and added almost 500 feet, we were served at that time from a telephone pole like you guys are up on top of the hill. And at the time, we were hoping that we would get Pac Bell to put fiber optic cable from this, throughout the neighborhoods and also from the street to the house. We haven't given up on the idea. So while you're tearing the property up in order to put the new property in, I would strongly recommend that you look at what it would take to install your fiber optic or coaxial or combination cabling and put your utilities from the street to the house underground. It's just a great safety precaution.
Yeah, that would be great. I've seen that too. My house is the last one that is getting power from the pole,
Yeah.
and the rest are getting them underground. I don't know if it's possible to get it underground, but I'll
Well, it's
discuss
not a
with-
requirement, and I'm just saying that while you're at it, the four most
be great.
expensive words in the English language, while we're at it, it would be good just to consider whether that's something that you want to do for your future, telecommunications needs.
Telecommunications, also power lines.
Yeah,
It'd be
all
nice
the
to
above.
not have to go overhead. I'll see who I need to talk to at the city and
The folks from the utility companies, they'll be happy to, help you set up the connections from the power source on the street to your house. And it might even be possible to see if you can get some help as you're thinking about it.
Sounds good, thanks.
All right,
That's it.
then, if there are no other questions or anything, I guess we can close the public hearing. You can stay there, but, or sit down if you wish, but now we have comments, and maybe start, John?
Well, this is sort of a pretty clear example of what I think is happening and going to happen over time. Whether you want to call it mansionization, pick whatever word you want. We have a heck of a lot of homes in Mulwood, especially of this size, 2,500 square foot size. You add another 1,500, what are you adding? 40% close to of increase. I think there are enough homes in the vicinity, as Jacqueline has pointed out, that doesn't make this stick out like a sore thumb, but it is clearly going to be the largest in the area. So I don't know whether I want to use the word I'm troubled by the mass, but I just sort of see it happening. I think the house is fine. I think it's interesting. I'm actually sort of excited to see how this works out, because so many what we see are remodels, and this is an actual tear down, and everything's going to be brand new and nice. And I just think I just think so many of these houses were built at a time when 2,500 square feet was fine with, 3 little bedrooms and a master bedroom like my house, and they're becoming passé. It's just the reality, and with the ADUs, that's even another example. So I don't want to sound critical, but I think we have to be mindful that that this is happening, and I'm pleased to see that there are at least neighbors close by who are supportive. That's all my comments.
Thanks,
Can I
John.
follow up on your comments?
Sure, go ahead.
Um,
There's another Mulwood resident.
Well, I've been in Mulwood in the same house, same wife, 53 years. And and we've made the changes to our property. After we moved in, within 7 years' time, nobody was building on a third acre anymore. Everything was 6 to the acre or more. And every condo opportunity that could be, developed was approved by LA County when they were the jurisdiction. And if you're looking at what the state legislature is doing to us all now, someone who is actually looking to make a comprehensive and integrated improvement to their property, even as large as this is probably easily comparable to somebody who wants to build a 2,500 square foot house and then an ADU and a junior ADU on the same property. And we're instead, this includes a 3-car garage, and I think we're going to see a lot of folks parking a lot of cars on a lot of streets around California, not just in Mullwood or in Calabasas. So while it's unfortunate that, that old gang of mine is no longer in charge, if I can say it that way, this is an example of how someone has thought about how to develop a property in a way that's generous to their needs in the future, but also respectful of the neighborhood, because it is an integrated design approach rather than being forced into an ADU. God knows what that'll look like, or a junior ADU. I know you have an ADU, and you probably spent a lot of time thinking about it.
Yes.
Not everybody does. So, the fact that this, is full utilization of the property, I see that this is actually not something to be feared, but to be understood as it affects the future of our Mullwood area and, North Malibu Canyon, Saratoga's, all of the houses there are, candidates for this kind of change. And you're right, we have to pay attention, but I don't think we need to be fearful. We need to be thorough in the way we make sure that the quality of design and the utility of the projects are what we had hoped for all these years that we've been here. And I appreciate your effort to do that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Everything said.
Bob, do you have any comments?
Yes, I just wanted to add on to what Commissioner Mueller said. This house will be 52% or greater than 13 of the homes on the street, with as much as 116%. I mean, it is a massive size house for that street, and I just have a problem with it meeting the finding of scale.
All right. That's one of the requirements. We have to find that the design is that the house is compatible with the design, appearance, and scale of the homes in the neighborhood. So Commissioner Lee is concerned about the scale. Actually, Commissioner Mueller was a little bit as well. Wendy, or do you have any other comments? I mean,
No,
that's your big, that's the
fine.
big problem for you.
It's a
Okay.
beautiful home, other than that.
Yeah, oh, okay.
I largely, if not completely, agree with the comments of Commissioner Washburn. I think that this house is very much in keeping with what has been happening in the Mullwood area. And I know that what is reported to us is what is going on scale-wise, among other things, within 300 feet. But I look at the Mullwood community as a whole, and both the design and the size are following on the heels of numerous, mostly add-ons, as opposed to new construction, and I'm happy to see the new construction. I think that it is of benefit, it will be of benefit to the homeowner, and it's of benefit to the community. And I like the design. And you see a lot of homes in the area now, more and more homes in the area, with a somewhat similar design, at least in terms of being more modern, the colors being used, and so on. So I'm all for it.
Thanks. I like to break things down, being a lawyer or whatever, and have. So I've taken those three words and just broken them down into components. So if I look at, first of all, I think it's excellent design and materials. This is just my general comment. And I actually love the whitewashed look of the vinyl. I didn't even know there was vinyl like that. And I like the roof. It's a cool roof, but it's, cool in the sense of cool temperature, not just the way it looks. And I just think it's really well done. And it's also wind resistant. So I break it down to kind of all the design components, because we have to find design. So I look at the roof and the eaves and the fascia boards and all that, and it's completely compatible. I look at the vertical and horizontal articulation and the facades, and there's no big, huge facade. That's all been broken up, so that's good. The height, it's very nice that you didn't make this huge. So we had a home near where Commissioner Leah lives. Anyway, I don't even want to talk about it, and Epi probably won't let me too. But it's just well done. The windows, the placement is fine. The size is fine. Again, better than the one in Saratoga. The door and the entry. I mean, this is all done really well. And the colors, the colors and materials, those are other, the staff usually addresses that, and I think those are all really good and compatible. I was just concerned about the gray inside, the gray glass. I don't think they would look good if they were too gray like that, you know.
It's
So,
normal
I mean, they can be
glass.
have a little tint for ultraviolet, but if they're actually gray, that's not gonna look good with the neighborhood. The appearance, we have to find that it's compatible with appearance. I'm not even sure what that means exactly. I think maybe the architectural style, which it is, the similar. But it also may include the landscaping, which I think is really good. I also noticed the native plants that Commissioner Mueller noticed, which is good. And he also made a remark about 15-gallon. I know you're in, you know, I bought a 1-gallon Western Redbud, and it's like this tall, and I've already have one that's huge, but it took years to actually get established. But they say, and you should check, the smaller the gallons, it actually gets established faster, and within like 2 years, it may be taller than the other one. Just check, because that's what some of the arborists will say.
Okay.
On scale, this is a concern of Commissioner Leah especially, and also Commissioner Mueller. I mean, this is larger than all the other ones, but I think the setbacks make a difference, so it doesn't have this sort of massive, you know, facade. And a lot of the extra square footage is in depth, but you have a very deep lot. So it's not like in your face as much as it could be. And the floor area ratio is pretty good. It's 0.28 versus 0.50 in the neighborhood. So I think that's compatible too. I think this is just a really respectful and good design. I appreciate what you and your architect, I forgot his name, but Mr. Carrick, I believe that you all did a good job. And I hope, as Commissioner Washburn mentioned, that when you're constructing this, I know you'll run into cost overruns, and you probably did this on your home. And I don't know if you did your home in Encino, or if it was already that way.
It was already done.
Yeah, all right. So, I mean, I know there are always cost overruns, but if you can, it would help your house if it didn't have the wires. I mean, it would help the value of your house and the safety of your house, as he mentioned, if you didn't have like overhead wires, if you could somehow change that. So anyway,
Great.
I just want to thank you for this really thoughtful and good design.
Thank you. That's what we were going for, to integrate relatively
No,
well.
I think you did a good job of doing that.
Are we ready for a motion?
Well,
I'd like to make
yeah.
one other comment.
Sure, go ahead.
If I could. We often on this commission throw around the word precedent, and the lawyers on the panel know that the word precedent has a very special meaning under the law. And what we're doing, if this is approved, we're not setting a precedent. We will have an example to look at, but it doesn't mean we're bound to do this same approval if we approve it next week or 2 weeks from now if we have a similar size. So I'm saying that really, Bob, in a sense to you, that I'm mindful of your concern. I share it, not as deeply as you, but I share it. And I want to make sure that at least this commissioner sitting in this chair is not saying that this is going to be the law of the land as a precedent would be from the Supreme Court. This is just something we're doing tonight. It's an example that people can look at, but it's not binding us in any way.
A question, if I may. Would the commission have a problem deleting the word scale from finding number 4?
Well, I think that's
I don't
required by
think we
law.
can.
It's in the code.
Yeah,
Well-
yeah, we have to find that it's
But it
compatible with scale.
clearly doesn't comply. That's the catch-22.
I think I found there were actually larger homes in the neighborhood, as Wendy was getting at. But I also think, I mean, personally, it is large, but it just doesn't look as large because it doesn't have the flat facade. It has a lot of articulation. I mean, this is really, to me, really well thought out. I think this is actually a good precedent for something that's that's large, but doesn't overwhelm. I don't know what everybody else
Well, I would
thinks,
just
but-
draw your attention, John, to the fact that if you go to the homes on America Way, just 2 blocks away, as the crow flies, they started at 3,000 square feet. And there are even some flag lots there in that vicinity, you know, where houses are quite sizable in the, to your point, the neighborhood. So in essence, it's not setting a precedent like where you're saying, well, if they can get 4,300 square feet, where's mine? You know, that's not the issue, because there are homes that are already in that category. And it's not just that the realtors are happy, you know, it's that the community is well done, generally speaking. The only complaint I'd have, frankly, if I could do it over again, I'd make the streets wider. Because if you drive on that street, any street, in fact, my street of Calabasas, you know, it's, you put a pickup truck here with one blowing, you know, mow and blow, and another pickup truck up here, you know, you're dodging traffic all up and down the street. Their fire department okay from 1970 standards, but you can't go back and fix the streets. So the fact that this is proposing a 3-car garage, you're going to see a number of folks that are saying, I need my space, or I need my options to turn it into, you know, an ADU when, you know, the relatives get old and they got to come and live with you. You know? And I'm looking at those kinds of things these days. So
Sure.
Yeah, just based
We're
on
all
my
there.
search, the largest houses are around 4,900 square feet. So there's some examples in Wallwood.
Does this street have street trees?
yeah.
Oh, good, okay. That helps. I mean, I know you're really concerned, Bob, and you should be. If this house, however, was in your neighborhood instead of that other one, this would be a lot better than that mishmash, you know, overwhelming facade with the misplaced windows. It didn't even make sense.
Michael, we've closed
Yeah.
the public hearing, and I think
Oh,
our applicant
I'm sorry.
should be welcome to sit if it feels like.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You may, I
This
didn't
is
mean
not
to
a
keep you
grilling
standing.
session.
Anyway, I don't know if we have a motion or anything yet.
I'm ready.
I have
Wanna
one.
do-
Oh.
Go ahead.
I move that we request under SPR 2022-012 that we develop a resolution for approval of this project.
Second.
Any other discussion?
I'm only going to say that this is one where I'm very pleased to see the proposed findings from the applicant virtually approvable as is. I mean,
Right.
you've done the staff, you've saved the staff a lot of work. Whoever wrote those did a great job of looking at prior examples, and I'm in favor of this.
Well, I think the staff writes the findings, and then they're submitted by the applicant.
Well, no.
They're from the applicant.
Right.
This is
We
from the
we
applicant.
typically provide a template, but the applicant does
Right,
write their own findings.
they provide, because you can tell the wording in many places is identical.
Yeah, but
so-
some are not this good.
Right, no, this is well done.
Okay.
But are,
We
any
have a motion
comments?
and second.
No.
Okay, so all those in favor, or do you want me to do a roll call?
You can, there's no need
All
to
in
roll
favor.
call if you don't want to.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, so you have unanimous approval then. And I think your house should be an example, or should be shown as an example of what can be done.
Uh,
What? Oh.
One thing, we actually just voted,
I-
but the applicant was never asked whether, if it's approved, which it just was, whether he has read the requirements.
Indemnification.
I would
Well,
note that was
all of
it was a motion to bring back this project at another meeting.
It'll be in the
So
resolution.
That's
approved.
They're gonna
So-
formulate it.
Okay, so.
They'll
Right.
formulate
yeah,
with
So we're
yeah,
not
no,
we're not dealing
I'm
with
aware.
conditions
Yeah.
or
So,
anything like that.
that
We
can-
have to do it in
just
two
have to
parts
remember-
now.
My
Right, the
motion
project
was-
has-
My motion was to approve the
Right,
the resolution or the preparation of the resolution of approval.
Right,
As
to
opposed to
direct
deny.
direct staff to
Yeah.
come back and with a
Right.
resolution of approval.
We just
And
have
that
to
will have the
remember to
indemnification.
request.
I don't think you need to
Commissioner
come
Fosford,
back
we
again,
do
but-
have the draft conditions of approval and indemnification
Yeah.
agreement in the packets as Exhibit D. I believe the
But-
homeowner has already read through the draft conditions.
Okay, but my point is,
Do you want an
because
affirmative
the
statement?
recommendation is
Oh.
for approval, as was just pointed out, the applicant doesn't have to go back, doesn't have to come back. And
Right.
so the opportunity may not exist to ask him if he's
Or
prepared
if
to
you want to ask him,
comply.
can you come back
Well,
up and then?
you'll have to open the
Okay,
public
I'll
hearing.
open the public hearing. Can you come back up so that Commissioner Weiss, okay, so, go ahead, Wendy.
Have you reviewed the proposed conditions for approval?
Yes, I have.
And are you prepared to comply with those conditions?
Yeah.
With the approval?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Thank
Close
you.
the public hearing, and we're good. Thank you
It's-
very much.
Yes,
Thank you.
thanks very much. Public hearing closed. Now I guess we can move on to the next item, which is the director's report.
Good evening, Commissioners. Just want to go through, well, first I want to mention that earlier today, I participated in a livable communities discussion put on by the Valley Economic Alliance. It was a very good discussion. Actually, Commissioner Washburn also participated in this meeting, so it was nice to see him present for that. The main focus of this particular meeting with the Valley Economic Alliance was to talk about housing. So one thing I wanted to point out is that they have launched a housing campaign which promotes more housing opportunities within the San Fernando Valley. They have information on their website. If anyone is interested in accessing that information from the Valley Economic Alliance, feel free to email me and I'll provide you with the information that they have on their website. At the meeting, we also discussed the Valley Economic Alliance is preparing a roadmap for housing, and they had a couple of items that they discussed that were really interesting. One was a presenter that talked about adaptive reuse, and he showed how strip malls and office buildings can be adapted for housing opportunities. City of LA has a adaptive reuse ordinance, and they actually just adopted or updated a new adaptive reuse ordinance which allows for adaptive reuse of existing commercial buildings for housing as a by right process. So a full ministerial permit process to convert an aging commercial structure into housing. Very interesting. Again, that was all discussed at that meeting. We also discussed accessory dwelling units and how those are being used to help solve the housing crisis within the state of California. And then another presenter talked about social housing, effectively mixing different socioeconomic backgrounds within new multifamily projects to provide a more diverse environment. It was really nice meeting today. It was very engaged and interesting stuff. The one thing that was not so great about that meeting, they did talk about the homeless count, which just was completed and the information was just presented. And for 2023, unfortunately, it looks like the percentage of unhoused population within LA County has gone up. According to the report that was just issued, it rose in LA County from 69,144 to 75,518, so that represents a 9% increase within the county of LA. Within the city of LA alone, it went from 41,980 to 46,260. So unfortunately, the number of unhoused individuals within the region have continued to go up. Within the San Fernando Valley region alone, they counted 9,604 unhoused individuals in 2022, and that number rose to 10,443 individuals in 2023, so roughly a 9% increase within the San Fernando Valley. They did talk about bond or Prop HHH, which is funds to build housing for unhoused individuals, and I think the goal of that bond was to build 10,000 housing units within LA County over a specified period of time. They currently have about 10,500 housing units in the pipeline, so that bond is being put to good use. At the moment, they've completed 3,500 units, and about another 7,000 are in the pipeline. So I just wanted to give the commission just a brief update on that Valley Economic Alliance. They're always doing some really interesting and good work for the region. Their main focus is business related, how to support the business economy within the valley, but they've taken on looking at housing as a key component to that, the whole business community. From there, I just want to mention that the next Planning Commission meeting is August 3rd. It looks like we might have an oak tree permit that will be scheduled for that meeting, and then of course at the meeting, from the meeting tonight, we can bring back the resolution that was recommended for, that was directed to staff to prepare. And then August 17th would be the next meeting after that. We don't have anything specific. We may have an addition moving forward on another property, although that has not been finalized. And then past that, going into September 7th, we have what looks to be a new home on Alder Place, which is in the Mountain Park community. So there's a vacant lot. It's been vacant for ever since the community was built. And there was an application submitted to build a new house on that property, and it looks like that may be trending for September 7th. That's all I have for the commission.
Thank you. Any comments or reports from the planning commissioners?
Senior.
Dennis?
I'd like to piggyback on what Michael said, because I am a member of the committee, at which he was an informed guest and did a great job today. Thank you very much. There were a number of reports during the Valley Economic Alliance, and the committee is called the Sustainability and Community Development Committee of the Valley Economic Alliance. They also have a Workforce Development Committee, and they have an Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion oriented committee as well. So if anyone is so moved, I would recommend that you look into the Valley Economic Alliance, and it's at valley.net if you want to look at their website. And there was a recording, in fact, of Michael's presentation today, and he'll be a star of that presentation because it was well done. But it made me think about what we need to do as planning commissioners here in Calabasas, and I'd like us to have a discussion at least soon about how we look at all of the technological changes that are being developed throughout, well, our state and our nation, and even the world for that matter, where the technology can actually help us meet some of these seemingly onerous challenges that our state legislature has put us up to. And it's also important for us to get an update, I think, as commissioners, on what the laws of the state of California are boding in the way of what's going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years as we try to develop our new general plan. And even though we have a so-called approved housing element, we had to approve in rapid order a public safety element and a circulation element as well. And in a way, I find that that's almost premature, because until you can cover all the chapters of a general plan, and I've done 3 of them here in this city over the period of 32 years now, you learn an awful lot in the process management. And I think that our staff and this commission, could actually become influential in how the city of Calabasas responds to these pressures that we're dealing with. So I encourage us to ask for a recommendation from staff as to how we bone up on the law, on what we know of the general plan requirements in the next year or 2 or 3 as we actually make our general plan. And then specifically, I'd like to look at housing technology and information or communications and telecommunications technology and what that does to the bunch of us. I mentioned to the proponent of the project tonight that it would be smart to be able to pre-wire your home for fiber optic cable and underground. I did that in 1996 after the earthquake, and it's paid dividends. I've had trees threaten to fall on what would have been the lines that come from my pole, and now we have people from Edison flying drones over our streets as we speak, and they're checking to see where the street trees that we planted and offered for free to our citizens in Calabasas where they're now challenging the power lines that are not insulated, and they're not insulated, and this is not insulting anybody. They have been treated in such a way, there are spreaders now that you can take a look at that keep the power lines that are uninsulated from touching one another and starting a fire. And that kind of stuff is being done in our town, which is great. Is that the optimum for the next 25 years? I don't know. And can't we get some experts in here to tell us about how we develop in the future and what things to anticipate and so forth? So I challenge us as commissioners to work with our staff to find out what are the next best steps we can do to understand not just housing technology, although that's a critical thing I'm interested in, but all the related technologies that are going to happen. And you're going to be shocked when you start to see all the change that's going to happen and how fast. And one last thing, and I'll tell you that I'm on the board of the directors at the Leonis Adobe Association. When we recognized as a board of directors there that the city of Calabasas was going to redo the streetscape of Old Town Calabasas and spend a lot of money changing the utilities and the sidewalk, the drainage, the communications technology, everything, I discovered that we did not have at the Adobe or at the Cantina, which is owned by the Leonis Adobe Association, did not have fiber optic capability. We had coax to the Cantina, but we had nothing else. Well, I discovered that there is no fiber optic capability here in this building, and the same in the Commons. What's wrong with that picture? And should it be Spectrum like we got at the Adobe? And they're actually working with us to do it as an accommodation to a nonprofit organization. But, we need it for specific, technological sophistication and communications and emergency communications management, all that stuff. And, we'll have a drill in here, for, safety and evacuation and communications and so forth. But if you're using DSL level communications technology, what's wrong with that picture? So it's not a criticism. It's like an alert that we need to say, let's get hip and let's do something about it. And I'd really love to have your concurrence that we work with our staff to determine how we bring that to the fore as a planning body for the city of Calabasas in the next 6 to 12 months.
Those are great ideas, and we should work as a planning commission, not just a plan review commission. So there are projects that may be developed near us, and maybe we can work with them as well.
And like we discovered this morning, Michael, was a member of a group of presenters that were talking about what's the future going to look like. And, the future of housing right now, it looks a little complex, but, we'll muddle through to victory here because we're good at that and have been for 32 years now. So let's do another 32 years worth.
All right.
I do want to mention, to address Commissioner Washburn's concern or question about fiber optic, I believe, I don't know what the status is, I have to look into it, but I believe that our Las Virgenes Malibu COG, so our local COG, which is headed by Terry Dipple, they're actually working on a regional fiber optic network. So if that moves forward, and hopefully it does, they have to receive funding and build it out, but the intent is to build a fiber optic backbone along Calabasas Road and basically paralleling the freeway down Agora Road and then connecting down into Agora and Westlake. And then from there, commercial properties and properties, off of it can feed into that fiber optic backbone. So one thing I can look into is having Terry Dipple come in and presenting what the COG is working on with, I don't know where the funding is coming from, but I can talk to him.
I'm thinking that this probably needs to be, a strategy of workshop education at this level. Basically organize and put together, just as you're suggesting. I do know that as we've installed some of our traffic control and communications installations in Calabasas, we actually have installed fiber. So many of our streets already, or the critical, highways in our city are, basically pre-wired for fiber optic controls on traffic signals and communications and even evacuation communications, control devices and things like that. So it would be great to know what we have. And then what do we need? Because we're 14 square miles plus, and we want more. And, you know, if we ask for, you know, those kinds of improvements as we, you know, annex and enlarge our city, then we're ahead of the game, seems to me.
Bob, you had some
Yes, two things.
comments? Go ahead.
One, on the current discussion, in the relatively near future, you will be receiving your internet by satellite. It's
There's a
gonna
lot
be-
of change coming that too.
It's gonna come within a year to 2 years.
Well, we'll see.
We have had use
Yeah.
right now, and it is being used in some remote areas, but that is definitely coming. The other thing, just a reminder, I will be on vacation for the 2 August meetings,
Aha.
and Mr. Chairman, requesting
I
excuse.
hope it's going to be
That's-
fun.
Well, of course
Yeah.
it's excuse. There's always an excuse to go to Italy.
And I'll be missing August 3rd.
Okay. But there'll still be 3 of us to approve Mr. Martin's, well, assuming you could bring that back on August 3rd, we can approve it.
I'll give you my proxy.
Okay. I mean, there'll be a quorum and an approval. Do we have an adaptive reuse ordinance in Calabasas?
We do not.
Um,
Something, I do believe that we put that into our housing element as one of our programs to look at, is to develop that. Yeah, so to answer your question.
Well,
we
I
do
hope
not.
we can look at that, because if we have all the parameters set out in a law, then, as you say, they can apply ministerially as opposed to,
Yeah,
through-
one of the interesting things that the individual pointed out, I believe he works for an architecture firm, is that a common understanding is that office buildings tend to have very large floor plates, which make it difficult to convert to housing. In his opinion, and again, this just represents his firm's opinion, most buildings can be converted. You just have to be creative with how you convert it.
right,
But
and I think
it does take certain changes to both the zoning ordinance and also looking at the building code to make potential exceptions or modifications to building requirements.
Well, I hope we can do that at some point. So, are there any reports from the planning commissioners? Anybody?
I move to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned to our August 3rd meeting. Thank you, everybody.